The silence of the corporate mainstream media is deafening. As Rupert Lowe's rape gang inquiry continues to unearth more horrific abuse that the establishment has been trying to bury over the last several years, this should be the final nail in the coffin of our utopian multicultural society. I say should because the mainstream corporate legacy media are doing their best to completely ignore this, keep it out of the public's mind, and brush it under the rug.
May 2017.
He shot a man dead, but not before. Everyone was running down their
Let's take a look at some of the corporate media news websites and see if they've covered the rape gang inquiry. Let's start with the BBC. No news on any inquiry on the BBC. How about we move to Sky News? Oh, wait, the only story is Rupert Lowe facing some sort of complaint about donations to the rape gang inquiry, which was completely thrown out because it was absolute bullshit. How about the Telegraph? Any news on the rape gang inquiry in the Telegraph? No, Rupert Lowe cleared by Watchdog over the donations to the rape gang inquiry. Why would they try and undermine donations to his independent inquiry? The Guardian. Good luck. Again, just that same bullshit story. The Times. Nothing whatsoever even on Rupert Lowe or the inquiry. How about just Rupert Lowe? Nothing. Well, anything. Does the Times even exist? Yes. Although it probably won't do soon. The Daily Mail. Again, the only story is the malicious attempt to undermine Rupert Lowe's rape gang inquiry. The Express. Oh, we have a story. Thank goodness for Rupert Lowe. This was back in December 2025. So they haven't reported on it, but at least they mentioned that it was in the offing. GB News. GB News is the only website that has actually been covering the rape gang inquiry in any capacity. So props there. Firstly, I just want to applaud the bravery of the victims who are going on the record in this inquiry in front of the entire world and talking about the most horrific of personal abuse that they've suffered. Anyone who's been the victim of abuse knows how difficult that can be. In the previous video I made, we heard from Marlon West, who's a father of one of the victims of these rape gangs. If you haven't watched it, go back and check it out because there was some bombshell stuff there. Absolutely impossible to believe this went on in Britain, in our country. But today we're going to be focusing on the testimony of Fiona Goddard. Let's have a look.
So what happened that night?
Nothing. Nothing, not for weeks. He kept picking us up multiple times a week, taking us to these parks and parking up. He would buy us alcohol from the petrol station, cigs, bring us food. He would play cards with us and listen to music, talk with us. And he would talk about our past, our history at home before we went into care. As an adult, I recognised he was trying to build up a picture of our vulnerabilities before anything progressed any further. As a child, we just thought he wanted to be our friend.
But that's really interesting. That's something we've noticed. So he was trying to pick up on your vulnerabilities. How was he doing that?
So he was asking us, like the other girl that was with me, her mum had died. So he was asking about how she felt about that and all the ins and outs of that with me. He was asking about what I'd experienced at home. It was like he was trying to realise what we were lacking so then he could offer us it, which would then build that emotional bond between us and him.
Is it fair to say he was testing the water almost to see what support network you had around you?
Yes, and I also think the first incident was also a test in the water. So one night he took us to a dingy hotel, one that's used for like brothel work.
Just stop you at this, but so he picked you up from the children's home and took you to a dingy hotel?
Yeah, he said that he didn't want to drive around all night. He wanted to be able to drink with us and have fun. We'd been out with him for a number of weeks at this point, so we felt kind of lulled into a false sense of security. We went to this hotel And we drank, we had vodka and Lucozade bottles, and we tipped half the Lucozade bottles out and pour it in with vodka instead. And we were drinking that in the hotel. I remember my friend being really drunk, and there was a double bed, and like I was laid in the middle, she was laid at one side of me, and he was laid at the other side of me. And then he waited until my friend had gone into the bathroom, and then she stumbled back in extremely drunk, and he pushed his hands down my pants and sexually assaulted me.
There you have it. Typical fucking grooming behaviour. That she was 13 years old at the time. And you just got a good insight into how they go about it. They target you straight from a children's home. So she's already vulnerable in care. Later on we'll hear about how the children's home already was notorious for being involved or targeted by these grooming gangs. Apparently, she said there was even a documentary on it.
There was an illegal immigrant that they brought from Blackburn, and he'd come on the back of a lorry, and they were sat there all night calling him Rambo, because apparently he'd gone Rambo on women and children in the Philippines, and he was wanted to be stood on a wall and fired by a firing squad. He was also castrated in Pakistan before he fled to the Philippines for abusing little children there.
So can we break that down a little bit?
Yes.
Pakistani man, castrated for abusing children in Pakistan.
Yes.
Then went to where, sorry?
The Philippines.
And what happened to him in the Philippines? Why was he called Rambo?
Apparently they called him Rambo, and they said he went Rambo on women and children. So the film Rambo
Does that
is...
mean Rambo, women and children? I'm aware of the film, but it's, I'm not sure Rambo doing anything to women and children.
Yeah, so he went like stabbing, like
Right.
with one of them Rambo knives, women and children.
So he then came over to this country.
Yeah,
and he was known for that within the community. And what, was he given a house?
He was an illegal immigrant that came on the back of a lorry. I don't think anyone even knew he was in the country. He was staying with relatives of my abusers in Blackburn. And then he travelled over from Blackburn with relatives of my abusers. And they were laughing and talking about the stuff that he'd done. And he actually sexually abused me and a 14-year-old girl that night. Obviously he couldn't rape us because he didn't have no there, but he tried his best to do everything else he could do, which is one thing that made me realise that this was not a sexual urge from these men. This was more like an in-depth radicalisation and normalisation. It was something they felt they were entitled to rather than a sexual orientation.
So a legal migrant comes on the back of a fucking lorry, immediately goes into these communities where these girls are there ready, waiting for them. And the same night he turns up, sexually assaults them. This guy was so bad, even Pakistan with its backwards approach to people's rights, they fucking castrated him. How bad was this dude? And they were talking about he stabbed someone, murdering them with a Rambo knife, with one of them big old fucking knives with the holes cut into the steel. So these are the sort of people, it looks like, that are coming in illegally and then being set up with their cousins or their families or friends in these communities and are just instantly straight up to speed, up and running, doing whatever the fuck they want to do.
There was a phone call once where she tried reporting me missing, and she said I was being picked up by Asian men and I was being abused. Now the call handler said back to her, you can't describe them as Asian men because that's racist. You should just be glad your child is being taught a different culture.
I was literally lost for words at this point. While Fiona Goddard was going through what must have been a horrifically difficult process in preparing for this inquiry, here's what West Yorkshire Police were doing. West Yorkshire Police, who are supposed to be the police force protecting her and other girls like her. Here's what they were doing while she was preparing for this inquiry. Unbefucking-lievable. Well done to the boys and girls of West Yorkshire Police for keeping the streets safe. Give yourselves a big pat on the fucking back. Well done. Great job.
There were multiple illegal immigrants during the time. They used to bring them out, we wouldn't call them mangies or freshies. They were, they'd often be a lot of second generation Pakistani men, and then like they'd bring out the illegal immigrants and stuff, or the just immigrated here ones. And they would try and force the girls to have sex with these men because even the girls were reluctant to go near them. And I can tell you now, not a single one of them men during that time that I met were coming here fleeing war and were scared of what was going on at home. They were coming here because they thought that they could have fun. None of them were good people. Not a single one had any other mindset other than drinking, drugs and taking a girl whether she wanted to or not.
These are the girls that are on the front line dealing with the result of our immigration policy and our asylum policy. They have been thrown to the wolves, left to fend for themselves, as young as 13 or younger in some cases, immediately being abused by these people.
In the serious case review, it was acknowledged that my criminal record should be squashed because I only have convictions aged between 13 and 18, which is exactly the years that I was abused. One of them is for possession of a lethal weapon in a public place because one of the men were beating me in my house and there was a full night of horrible stuff going on, and he sent me in the kitchen to make him a pizza, and as I was cutting the pizza I just started threatening him with the knife, and I karate chopped his arm with it, and he went and then he came back and he started kicking the door. So I left the doorstep and I chased him to the car with the knife, and at the same time a police van pulled up. So one of the neighbours must have rang, they must have heard the screaming and stuff, and the police instead let him drive away and they arrested me for possession of a lethal weapon in a public place because I left the doorstep.
Here we hear about another example of how the police are arresting the victims, arresting the girls, refusing to even investigate, okay, why was she there chasing this guy with a knife? What the fuck was going on? Maybe I want to get a statement off the guy, or just let him drive away.
There was a gradual increase in the violence, and it was used by all these different types of experiences to then it escalated into showing us videos of them beating people to death until their skulls caved in. I had to clean up after 2 stabbings and hide the men. I was involved in a shootout. I got told this is where we dumped dead bodies, and then 3 days later there was a dead body found there.
So not just only the sexual assaults on the girls, they were also party to and witness to all sorts of other horrifically violent crimes. Murders, attempted murders. Where were the police? Where were the authorities? What the fuck is going on in these lawless areas of Britain? Fiona Goddard was 13 years old when this abuse started. I've got a daughter who's 13 years old, and it makes my fucking blood boil to think that she could be only 1 or 2 degrees away from dealing with people who are in this exact situation because of these failed policies in Britain for decades, and then instead of dealing with them, sweeping them under the rug. These victims have been groomed for years, raped for years, victims of horrific crimes and abuse. And they've been abandoned by the police, by social workers, by politicians, by so-called journalists. Journalists that are still ignoring this today as they're sitting in front of a camera giving this evidence. Have they fucking learned nothing? One thing for sure is that there is a reckoning coming, and we will remember the enablers of these horrific crimes. You've been watching This Week in Britain. I'm Matt Jackson. Thanks for watching. See you next week.